with Andy Potter on BBC Radio Derby.
Time to look at another musical life. This is where we take people in Derbyshire and East Staffordshire and talk about their job, talk about their profession, talk about their life, and also find the first record they bought, the last record they bought, and the piece of music which means the most to them. Here's today's.
It's Mandie Stravino, and I'm the Chief Exec at Derby College.
That's a big job, isn't it?
Yes, it is, but an absolute honour. Really is. It's my dream job, real culmination of everything I've done in my life from my early childhood right through to today. So being given the opportunity to lead an organisation which main purpose is about inspiring people to achieve their potential in life and move to the next place in their life is just an absolute dream job. I'm not saying that there aren't challenges within that. Of course there are. It's a large organisation with similar challenges to any large organisation has. But yeah, an absolute honour.
It's a lot of sites and it's a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's I think we're now 9th largest college out of, there's probably about 400 colleges I think now across the country, and we're kind of in that top 10 bracket in terms of size. That's working with the number of learners we work with each year, employing the number of team members we employ, and across the number of campuses and sites within those campuses. So yeah, it's a large organisation.
Staff to one side, how many students go through the college?
On average around 30,000 learners a year. And if you were to think of traditional college learners, that would equate to about 7,000 a year. So in Derby and Derbyshire and our campuses, those learners studying, as I say, what would be deemed as a traditional full-time college course, about 7,000 learners every year. The rest of the 30,000 is made up of adults, so those adults studying in the evening to progress, and those adults who are already in the workplace who are studying to progress, and also working with employers so that they can upskill their workforce to ensure they've got a fit for purpose workforce for the future. And also those adults who aren't in employment at the moment and who are looking either to change career direction or to re-engage back in employment. So we've got a whole raft really of young people from the 1st of January we'll be the official sponsor of an academy. So we'll actually be working with young people from the age of 11 right through to as far the opposite end of the spectrum as you can imagine.
That's a huge responsibility, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Do you feel that pressure? Because you're sort of the figurehead for the whole lot, aren't you, really?
Not until you've just asked me that question. No, I think it's what you do. It's what I love doing. And I don't say that flippantly. It's not a light-hearted task that I embark on. I understand the enormity of it. I understand the challenges that we've got facing us moving forward. But at the same time, I love what I do, and I think that makes a phenomenal difference. And I'm so lucky to be in that position. You know, you talk with people who, for one reason or another, aren't happy in the job that they're doing. And it's an enormous part of our lives. And I know at a very simplistic level, our jobs pay for our lives, but ultimately we spend so much time at work, or even when we're not at work, thinking about work. It's human nature. And I think to be really happy and enjoy what we do, you know, I'm really fortunate and really lucky to do that. So I think sometimes that drive and that passion maybe stops me thinking about the enormity of certainly the accountability that a role like this takes on. But at the same time, lots of my day-to-day activities ensure that the accountability in terms of the experience our learners are getting, the experience and the customer service that our employers are getting drives what we do. So that is always at the forefront of certainly the leadership team within the organisation.
To reuse a well-worn quote then, has your life always been education, education, education?
Well, no and yes. And I say no because actually I started in industry. So this is my second career education. And I think you'll find many people in colleges and FE have gone down that road, because actually they start off by working with young people, training them in the trade that they learned and they loved, and actually that's what then sparks them to move on to work with people to give them the same experiences and opportunities that they had. So I think many people in FE, not all but many, have been through a first successful career before they move into FE, and it gives them a springboard on that. However, I know certainly when I was looking at kind of song choices, education played a big part in all three of those songs. So I think psychologically it's really been education at all levels, from primary through to higher education, have been a real driving force and have led me to where I am today.
Let's go all the way back to the beginning then. Mm-hmm. Where'd you come from?
From Nottingham. Am I allowed to say that on radio, Derby?
I like the gulp just before you said it. Yeah.
That look of fear in my eyes. I could make it slightly better and say it was kind of the boundary and the border between Nottingham and Derby. But yeah, was born and bred in different areas of Nottingham. And again, I think right from primary level, you know, when you reflect back and you look back, those early years, early experiences, early interests really have a real influence on us as adults and where we end up as adults. And I don't think you always know that. So
did you know what you wanted to be?
I wanted to be in hotel management. I wanted to be a hotel manager, and I was driven by that. And at school, certainly in secondary school, I remember seeing the careers advisor, and I got all the kind of careers advice of the time, which was very much, oh, you don't want to do that. That means working evenings and weekends and bank holidays and Christmas. No, I understand all of that, and that's what I want to do, and that's what I'm going to do. I think I discovered very early on that actually practical applications weren't necessarily going to be my forte, and people, dealing with people, working with people on a day-to-day basis, be that a team and be that clients or customers. That was really where my forte was going to be, and what I enjoyed and what I had a passion in. Making people feel good. And I suppose that's the synergy between hotel management and education. You know, it's giving people an experience that values them as an individual and that makes them feel good about themselves and gives them, you know, inspiration to go on and do other things. And you wouldn't necessarily put those two closely linked together, but there's a definite correlation between the two worlds.
We're going to explore that in slightly more depth in just a minute, but let's get onto your first record. This is First, Last and Everything. And when we asked for the list, it's great what people let go on this. You've got some money in your back pocket, in your jeans. You pop into Nottingham.
Well, actually, I was that young. I wasn't popping money into my jeans and going into town. It was actually a request I made through my parents. So this is my first album, but I was at such a young age that actually my father bought it for me.
But we're talking about the Bay City Rollers.
We are, yeah. They were my first band, my first boy band, that then probably led into a bit of a theme.
Did you have the cut-off trousers and the tartan and the scarves and all those sort of things?
I had the scarf, definitely, yeah.
Let's relive those moments then with a bit of Shangalang. We've got more from the Chief Executive, Mandie Stravino of Derby College, right after this. It's another one of our First, Last and Everything musical life from the new principal and Chief Executive at Derby College, Mandie Stravino, and the Bay City Rollers as a starting point, the first record that was bought for it, really, by her dad, and Shangalang. The memories that it brings back then.
It takes me back to a time in my life which was my primary years. As I say, I was probably quite young to embark on my first album, and I was in a really fortunate position. I had the opportunity to do lots of activities in those primary years, and I think lots of those activities laid some foundations for where I am today. One of those memories of that point in time was being part of the Brownie Guides, and I've mentioned earlier about the realisation through trying to achieve the badges that were the honour in the Brownie Guides, that practical skills like cookery and sewing, needlework weren't necessarily going to be my forte, but I did really get a real passion and interest for public speaking, so a real love for actually being able to stand up and speak and articulate my feelings.
So did you ultimately get an armful of badges or not?
I did, yes. Yeah.
What were you most proud of? What was the
I
Brownie
think it was public speaking. I don't think it was called that at the time, and I can't remember the term it was called, but yeah, public speaking. And I think that whole Brownie Guides era really gave me a real confidence in myself and my own abilities, but also being able to realise at a really early age probably what weren't going to be the gold stars moving forward.
We've talked about you wanting to be in the hotel trade. What did you actually do? Did you try it or not?
Yeah. What actually happened was I moved forward, and this is where my passion really started for FE. So although my primary years and the activities at that stage were really interesting and challenging, I didn't necessarily find my secondary education as challenging as I necessarily would have liked it to be. And I moved on, under knowing what I wanted to do, to college. So I went to college to study my chosen trade, and that was really my springboard moving forward. So my passion for FE was twofold, really. One is where I met my partner, who ended up being my soulmate, that's now my husband, father of my two gorgeous children, and just my best friend, really, I suppose I would describe him as. But also it was the springboard to getting me to the next place in my life. I went from there into hotel management. But because it was such a fantastic experience for me, and because I felt that it did result in me having that great first career, I then went back into FE and trained as a lecturer at the same college where I'd been a student, and actually then really thought, no, this is what I want to do. I now want to change career direction and actually move into FE and work with young people and adults who, again, really have an aspiration to move on to a space in their life that they know about. And some young people don't, and equally the FE space is as valuable for them in terms of them being given an opportunity to explore and discover what they want to do next. But yeah, it was a real exciting time.
So did the hotel trade change, as it were? Do people expect more these days? Are people quite keen to complain more than they have done in the past?
I think when I was in the industry, and I can't speak for the industry now, I haven't been out of it for a while, but certainly when I was in the industry, we used to view complaints as free consultancy. And I think people that are successful in customer service do view comments and complaints in a very positive way, because actually if somebody complains about something, one, you have an opportunity to put it right for them. Two, you have an opportunity to learn from your mistakes and make sure that that doesn't happen again. And I think they can all be turned into positive experiences, both for the individual who raises the comments and for the organisation that then makes sure that that doesn't happen again in the future. So I think that most sectors and organisations do view their customer comments and complaints in a very positive way. And again, there's a similarity there between, the comments that we get in a college as an organisation from our young people, our students, our parents and our employers. And it's crucial that we're continually getting feedback from them all the time so that we can act on that and always improve our experience and our service.
We're going to talk about where you are now and what the future is for Derby College, but I need to get to your last piece of music which you purchased. Are you a downloader these days, or do you still like the physical CD or even the vinyl?
Yeah, well, to be honest, when we were going through these song choices, we actually went up into the loft and pulled down the vinyl. And my youngest son, who's 11, was just holding this vinyl in absolute amazement. And I think it just shows how far we've come. And he is in a world where everything is downloaded, and even CDs to him are old money.
So Maroon 5 then, and Move Like Jagger. What is it about the song?
I think with this song, it really summarises the last kind of few years of my life. So probably hitting that big 40, a real realisation that certain things, and I wouldn't say life begins at 40, but certainly a lot of things changed for me at that period of time and have continued to change over that time. So I've spent 10 years very interested in yoga. I've probably become what some of my friends and family term as complete addict. And if I can practice yoga every day, I do. I absolutely absolutely love it. I get so much from it. I actually graduated with my master's very late in life. Again, actually on my 40th birthday, I went to my graduation. And again, being fortunate enough to be offered this post that I'm now in, and this record was actually playing. I was listening to it in the car when I got the call from our Chair of Governors offering me the post that I'm currently in. So it really brought me up to the kind of a reflection really on the last few years and where that's led to.
Let's go back then to our first, last and everything with the new principal and chief executive of Derby College, Mandie Stravino. We've had the first and last. But before we get to the everything, I wanted to talk about the future of Derby College.
I think we'll be driven more and more so by the local enterprise partnerships, so in our case D2N2, and they'll play a much greater role in terms of saying to education across the board, not just FE and colleges, but right, this is what our local area, this is what the D2N2 area needs moving forward. These are the kind of skills that we need as an economy to make sure that we're at the kind of vanguard of our game. So I think we'll be much more driven by that labour market information and the demand for skills and where that demand sits. So I think we'll be driven more and more down that road, and that's quite right. Young people in those destinations are going to be far more valuable if there's a job at the end of it for them. However, I think we also just need to be very wary that we don't throw a baby out with the bathwater. And for example, as an organisation, we've in the past been questioned around things like hairdressing. So why do you do so much work in hairdressing? And the response to us is twofold. One, actually, you'd be amazed at the amount of learners that go through that journey and actually go out into employment. Lots of them self-employed individuals. But number two, part of education is actually gaining somebody's interest and gaining and inspiring them so that we can move their aspiration on. And if that means that somebody has a real passion and interest in hairdressing, that can be the starting point for us. So I'm not suggesting that we start them on hairdressing and before you know it they're an engineer. What I'm saying is we engage them in education and learning, which ultimately will change their life. And lots of the skills that you need to work out in any vocation are actually very, very similar traits. You need people skills, you need enterprise skills, you need to have that entrepreneurship thinking. So there are lots of general skills and qualities and attributes that young people need to be successful in the world of work.
What about the level of students when they come to you? And I'm talking about the youngsters now. Remember when you went to college, you knew what you wanted to do. You got various grades in whatever it may be. When students first come to you now, are we still at that level, or are we having to almost do some of the senior school stuff before we get onto the advanced education?
Because we offer such a wide range of provision. So, for example, Joseph Wright Centre across the road there, predominantly A-level provision. Young people there probably have a slightly different destination in mind, possibly onto higher education, and therefore the entry requirements required to be fair to a young person, to enable them. Because when we enrol a young person, we're committing to them. We're saying, yes, we really do feel that you've got every opportunity to achieve what you want to achieve. And it'd be very unfair of us to engage with somebody on a certain path where we don't feel that at that point in time they would be successful and be able to achieve. So I think we're in a position as an FE organisation where anybody that we engage with, especially our young people, we will commit to find them the right learning pathway. It may not necessarily be the pathway that they walk in the door saying that they want to attend initially, but we can get them there over a period of time. If they're committed to it, we certainly are, and they can work their way through. So I think entry requirements are absolutely crucial.
I just want to stay on this just for one more second, because I remember when I was involved with education, and anybody that comes through and gets that qualification, that is what you're judged on. That's what you're marked on. That is how you get funding, the fact that you put so many people through. So each person that comes through actually has a monetary value, to put it in its the cold light of day.
Yeah.
Is that what you have to be aware of all the time as well? As funds get tighter, you've got to make sure that you're still putting that, and I apologise for the word now, the product through. You get the right numbers through.
Yeah.
So you get the money.
We're non-for-profit, so we can't make profit. We don't have shareholders. We are mainly funded through different government streams, but ultimately through the taxpayer's purse, to provide a public service to the people we engage with. However, as everybody's aware, there have been squeezes on that purse, and there will continue to be squeezes on that public sector purse moving forward, and we're not immune for feeling the effects of that. And I think one of the challenges that we have as an organisation is how we do more for less, and how we also subsidise that income. So as I say, we're not in a position where we'll ever be able to make a profit, but we need to make some commercial and generate some commercial income so that we can reinvest it back in, ensure that we have always got the most up-to-date equipment, learning environments and accommodation for our young people and our adults indeed. So I think that is you're quite right, one of our challenges moving forward, how we balance that generation of commercial income. One of the things that we've done there is obviously the fantastic Roundhouse building. That is a state-of-the-art learning environment, vocational learning environment, and looking at it day in, day out, I don't cease ever to be amazed at what's been achieved there. But actually what we've also been able to do is use that fantastic environment to generate some commercial income by using it so we've got at the moment kind of high-end Christmas parties in there over the Christmas period. One, that means people that wouldn't necessarily come through the doors of an FE organisation get to see us, but also it enables us to generate some commercial income that gets pumped and fed back into the learners and the learning environment. And that's quite a difficult balance.
Let's get to your Everthing piece of music. Now, some people might be surprised by this. I looked at it and thought, I don't know, this is an awful lot about you at a time when you were making that transition, I'd have thought, from being a youngster into the teenager and then into the adult. A bit of the damned.
Yeah, this was, I mentioned that when I went to college, it was important to my future life for two reasons. And one of them was I met my now husband and father of my children, and this 12-inch was the record that he bought me on our first date. And I must admit, I was probably at a phase where I was trying to be a little bit cool, and I needed maybe to to ditch Bay City Rollers and Duran Duran, which had been my boy bands before, for a band that was slightly cooler at the time and a little bit of a gothic edge coming through. So yeah, it was probably to impress her.
What we're going to play for you?
We're going to play Alone Again by The Damned.
The new principal and chief executive at Derby College with her first, last and everything.